Okay, welcome back. Okay, we just finished the note command, and then 1.8 actually I covered it right at the beginning, the difference between data editor and data browser. So we can move on to 1.9 and 1.10. So the list command. Okay, so the list command means instead of using the data editor or data browser to view the data, you rather type the command list. Okay, so if I type list, then you can see the data spreadsheet is shown here rather in the, this is called results window. Okay. And in case you are only interested to know uh, uh, the values of particular variables, then list. Let's say if I go back to the question, okay. I am only interested to know the values of year, cons1, and YPDI. What's going on here? Okay, year, cons1. Okay, year, cons1, YPDI. Okay, so I think I covered this question. The next one, which is also a straightforward command, the describe command. Okay, type describe to find out the detailed info on each variable. You already know the detailed info of the variables here, but let's say you prefer to read the description here in the results window. So describe. Let's say I'm interested in the description of all variables, then just one word, describe. You see the description, and then it also gives you information. Is it an integer variable or text variable? So let's say province, it is a string variable. And you might wonder what 3 stands for. It means the maximum number of letters in the string variable. If you go back to the data editor, KwaZulu-Natal, Gauteng, maximum 3 letters. Okay, so this is what string 3 stands for. Okay, and then let's say describe. Let's say I'm only interested to know what's going on in 1 or 2 variables. So describe space followed by the variable names. Let's say I am only interested to know the description on cons1 and YPDI. So this is the command, describe cons1 YPDI. So that's the description. So I think this is a very straightforward command, the describe command. The next one, the summary statistics. Okay, remember, if you still remember what we did or what we learned in Excel back in early February. Okay, time flies quickly. Okay, summary statistics, we derive the mean, median, and so forth. So this is the command called sum. The whole word is called summary, but I think Stata accepts the abbreviation sum, SUM. So sum does not mean summation. It actually means summary. So let's stick with the requirement of the question. 1.12 summary statistics on real consumption and nominal income. So sum cons1 YPDI, and then if you're ready, you press enter. So this is the summary statistics. 8 observations, or the sample size is 8. Then you have the mean, standard deviation, minimum, and maximum. Okay. In case you need more summary statistics other than these 4, let's say you need to know the median and so forth, then there is another option. Sum the variable names, comma, but you need to add the keyword detail. So it means you require more detailed statistics of the variable or the variables. It can be more than one variable at a time. So sum cons1 YPDI, comma, detail. So I'm more demanding this time. I need the detailed statistics. Okay. So you can see the median is there and even those percentile values. Okay. Even variance, not just standard deviation variance. Skewness, kurtosis. I wonder if you still remember that. This is what you what you learned from econometrics, if I remember correctly. Your undergrad econometrics. Okay. Then the next one, tabulation. I just want to know the number of people in each category. So let's say 1.13, tab province. Okay, so I want to know the number of people living in each province, or I think the result also shows you the percentage share. So tab province, and that's the answer. Sample size is 8. So that's the number of people staying in Gauteng, 3 people. remember, this is not the true sample. If we really use the Stats SA census or labor force survey, the sample size could never be 8. It will be a lot more people. But later we will really use the Stats SA dataset. So from this so-called biased, misleading sample, so there are 8 people in total. 2 people, or 25%, quarter of the people in the sample, they come from Eastern Cape, and then Gauteng, 3 people in absolute terms, and then in relative or percentage terms, 37.5%. Okay. And then the next one, cross-tab. So it means 2 variables are involved. So let's do this combined tabulation, province and race. Tab, province and race. So we call this two-way tabulation. Okay. We must still provide label to each category of the race variable, but coming up later. So what does this mean? If you look at this value 2, then it means 2 people out of the 8 people. They live in Eastern Cape and they come from the race group 1. Race group 1 actually stands for African. Okay. And then the next one. It is still the same two-way tabulation, but followed by comma, NOF, ROW. What does it mean? So NOF actually means no frequency. So in other words, you are asking the Stata software, when the results are presented, don't show the frequency, but rather show the percentage distribution along each row. So let's do this command quickly. Tab, province, race, comma, NOF, row. Okay, so you can see the sum of the shares, they add up to 100% in each row. So let's interpret this row. It actually means for people who stay in the Western Cape, 50% of them come from the colored population, and then the other 50% come from the Indian population. Okay, if you can understand this part or the interpretation, then you should have no problem to understand this one. So for people who stay in Gauteng, 1/3 of them come from the Indian population group, and then the remaining 2/3, they come from the white population group. Okay, so this is what this command is all about. Show the percentage share along each row. Okay, so they must add up to 100% in each row. And then what if it is the other way around? I rather want to see the percentage distribution along each column. Then this is how the command looks like. Two-way tabulation, you have to indicate the 2 variables, comma, then no frequency NOF, space, and then column COL. So let's do this one. Tab, province, race, comma, NOF, COL. Okay, so this time you can see 100% summation total in each column. So maybe I can interpret this column. So it actually means for race group number 2, or for the colored population, half of them come from KwaZulu-Natal and the other half of them come from Western Cape. Okay, and similarly for this column, it means for the white population, all of them come from Gauteng province. Again, we know that in real life situation, it is impossible for all the white population to come from Gauteng only. Okay, but this is just a hypothetical data set. Okay, so this is the two-way tabulations. Next one, now this is the important one, the race label. If I go back to the race categorical variable, tab race, okay, I work with the census data or the Stats SA data many years, so I immediately remember category 1 stands for African, category 2 stands for color, and so forth. But what if you share the data with someone else and they really don't know the meaning behind each race variable? And this is why we have to generate label to provide a proper description to each category. And this one is slightly more complicated. It involves two lines of commands. Okay, obviously you have to enter them separately, one at a time. Okay, so this is the first line of the command. You need to first type the keywords label, define, then you give a name to the label. I usually recommend you to use capital letter. Then you would distinguish this from the variable. For variables, I always recommend you to use small letter. But when you generate a label, I would rather use capital letter to name the label. And then you give the description to each category. So let's do the first line of command. Label, define. And as I mentioned earlier, I use capital letter. So this is the name of the label, which is called race. One would be African. Remember to use double quotation mark. Number 2, colored. Number 3, Indian. And number 4, white. Okay, I'll stop for 10 seconds until everyone is ready. Okay, and then there's still a second line. Because I have to tell Stata, please apply this label to a particular variable. So obviously I want to apply this label on the race variable. So this is the second line of command, starting with 2 words, label values, followed by the variable name and then the name of the label. So the second line would be label values. The variable is race, and then the name of the label is race. So don't get confused between the two. This one, all in small letter, stands for the variable name. And this one, all in capital letter, stands for the name of the label. Okay, I want to use this label on this race variable. Okay, label, values, race, race. And then I can tap enter. Okay. Afterwards, now I tap the race variable, you will finally see the description. Okay, happy with that? Okay. You might ask a question, is it possible to be able to see both the description and the category number at the same time? So in other words, you might wonder, is it possible for this to be shown as 1 African, 2 color, 3 Indian, 4 white? The answer is yes, it is possible, but I will leave it until later. Okay, so I owe you an explanation here. Okay, the next one. Remember we previously have, or currently we have the nominal personal disposable income, but remember economists work with constant prices. So this is the next question. You would like to generate a real personal disposable income, YPDI1. So type the following command. So this is called the generate command, gen command, which is a bit similar to what you learn in eView. So you generate a new variable by typing an equation. So this is the variable I want to generate, YPDI1, real personal disposable income equals nominal income divided by CPI times 100. So let's do that. So generate gen YPDI1 equals YPDI divided by CPI times 100. Okay, happy with that? Then you can press enter. Actually, I want to give a description. So I want to refresh your memory, what you learned earlier. Label variable, YPDI1, real personal disposable income. Okay? Okay. Okay, so in other words, I don't really need this nominal personal disposable income. So this is a command called drop. You want to drop a variable that you don't need anymore. But before you decide to run this command, you need to be very careful. You must be very sure you no longer need this variable. So I want to drop YPDI. So once you press enter, YPDI would no longer exist in your starter file. So drop YPDI. You can see the variable has gone. Okay.